the voice is distracting everybody, but I really do wonder how many people caught this in the subtitles. I'm legitimately curious. The only people I think that would probably catch this, truthfully, would be source readers, or people that are really analyzing every single moment of an episode, because this moment would easily fly over your head, and you would look at it and be like, oh, okay, that's her name, and that would be about it. But I want to point something out to you. Don't worry, this isn't spoilers, but I'm going to dive into this a little bit. So, this is the kingdom, the main central area that ReZero takes place in. Obviously, there's multiple different kingdoms and empires, etc., but at least where the main story currently, with ReZero Season 1, 2, and 3, it has taken place within this kingdom right here. I can't really pronounce the name properly, so I'm not even going to try, but the point of the matter is that this is the name of the kingdom that Subaru and everybody else is currently in. Now, take a look at her name. Just take a hard look at her name for a second. It's very clear that name is being represented as, in a way, to either A, a mockery to the kingdom, or she is royalty. One or the other. And that really makes this entire moment extremely thought-provoking. What is her connection to the kingdom? Who is she really? But on top of that, the big question that really arises, who would dare say such a name, a last name? Because it's like, we have Sirius Romanicanti, we have Petalugius Romanicanti, we have Regulus Corneus, and now we have Capella, which is named after literally the kingdom. Now, at this current time, we don't know the full inner workings and structure of how the kingdom fully operates. We know that there is a succession war. That's the reason why Emilia and, Anastasia, Crush, and all of them are basically competing to be able to, be the next ruler of the kingdom. But the big point is that we know that there is a royal family. We know that. And we also know, if we think back to Season 1 of ReZero, like the first arc of the anime, Felt was found to be royalty. Reinhardt was searching, and he found Felt. Now, from what we found out from those brief exchanges in Season 1, someone within the royal family was missing. They went up missing and all that. We don't really know much about those details, but Reinhardt was dead set on the fact that Felt was apparently a royal family member, and he found her, and then obviously she's now participating in the succession war. And so when you factor all that in, we know there was some complications with the royal family. We know that the current state of the things of the kingdom is why it's led to the succession war at its current time period. Like, the main plot of the story, the overarching plot, I guess, the main end objective of the story is, who actually gets on the throne. But the point is that this means that in some shape or form, Capella potentially could be related, not just with the royal family, but Felt. That is food for thought. So think about that for a moment. I'm not going to dive into any potential spoiler territory or anything like that, but that is something I do want to bring up, and this episode definitely wants to draw you towards that conclusion because of the name drop. The name is a very big detail, and it is something, like I said, the average watcher might just fly over your head, but if you know the geographical location of ReZero, then you'll instantly recognize this. And you'll be like, huh, what's going on there? But anyways, disregarding that for a moment, let's take a few moments to really just talk about the overall voice acting performance within this episode. Obviously, noteworthy mention is Capella's VA. She is legitimately talented. To be able to voice Capella in such a innocent and evil and seductive manner is honestly impressive. It takes a lot of talent to be able to mix those type of emotions into a voice, and that is exactly what I imagine Capella to sound like. This innocent girl that is also very evil, very, I guess, sadistic and seductive as well. That, at the very least, is the impression I got from the voice. Perfect. Absolutely perfect VA work for Capella. I cannot wait to see the performance later on in upcoming episodes, because this was just our first real glimpse, or, actually what we got to hear from the voice actor for Capella. Now, looking at other iconic scenes from this episode, there is definitely a mentioning that needs to be for Garfield. Garfield's entire scene here, crying on the rooftop with Mimi, is legitimately, it's beautiful, man, because it showcases Garfield's soft side, that he isn't this brutish, strong tiger. He has this very soft, fragile heart, and it shows that, like, little segment of Garfield's character we saw briefly within Season 2. It's still there, but also he has this very hard external shell that he wraps himself around to be able to actually, you know, be powerful and seem like he's very powerful. That's why he buffs himself up and all that when he goes into his tiger form. It very much is animalistic to a degree. You know how animals, when they get threatened or, you know, they feel like they're about to fight an incredible opponent, they buff up their fur, stands on end, stuff like that. You know, Garfield always puts on this facade, this, you know, this, this body language that he's very powerful, but when we actually get down to the nitty-gritty and rip everything away from him, you see what he truly is, and how he's just a little boy that just wanted to be able to find his mother and have his mother call him son, and him to be able to call his mother. It's a very beautiful moment. There's a lot more to his character than just that, but I really do love what this episode represents. I did dive into some of the nitty-gritty of it in yesterday's video, talking about the PV trailer and stuff, and how this episode clearly was a Garfield-focused episode, and definitely it was. Now, personally, I would say in terms of character progression episodes, this is the best it possibly can be. It really does set the stage for things to come up in the upcoming episodes. It's nice groundwork for Garfield's character, Mimi's character, but also what Subaru and his group is going to be doing, and setting the chess pieces on the board on who is going to be doing what for the upcoming fights. So, let's dive into that one. So this whole final sequence at the end of the episode pretty much relays who is going to be working together at each given moment. We know that at this current time, Reinhardt isn't here in this conversation piece. Mainly, it's the royal candidates, aka like Anastasia, crushing them, and we get to see how they are talking about what to do, what's their plan of action. At this current moment, Subaru's camp looks very scattered. Obviously, Otto's not here, Garfield's not here, Emilia's not here, Beatrice is literally out of commission that we saw at, a few moments before this scene, and on top of that, Rosewall's not here, and we know Reinhardt theoretically can't do much as well. I know he's not a part of Subaru's camp, but we know Reinhardt isn't the answer to everything. So it's just like, Subaru's forces are very spread thin. He can't overly rely on Beatrice, because obviously she's at her limit, and she theoretically could die if she uses any more magic. Subaru's injured, his leg is very hurt, we clearly see that. I mean, Felix, multiple times tries to reinforce the fact, like, hey, Subaru, you're really hurt, stop moving around. We also have, like, for instance, Otto. We don't know what's going on with him, because obviously we saw something happening with Gluttony at the beginning of the episode. I'll talk about that in a second. And then obviously we know what's going on with Garfield, because the episode heavily focused on him, and right now his main task is to be able to probably find the two kids and stuff that are missing, aka like his step siblings. That's what Garfield's going to be doing. So Subaru's kind of on his own right now. He can't really rely on a lot of people that he normally has in his camp. He's going to have to rely on others outside of his camp to be able to get things done, which kind of goes back into Season 1 type of themes and the emotions we got from Season 1. Because remember, the only person that really had his back in Season 1, at least towards the end, the final arc of Season 1, was Rim. And obviously, Rim is not here. He can't rely on Rim. And so Subaru is basically doing content from Season 1, but now without the help of everyone, and even Rim at that. So how far can he get, and has he learned from his mistakes from previous loops to be able to accomplish what he needs to be doing? For instance, we know he has a good relationship with, Wilhelm. We know he has a good, relationship with Anastasia to a degree, at least business-wise. We know that Al is calling him brother, and they call each other brother and all that. They definitely have a nice relationship. Crush obviously has a lot in common with Subaru, thanks to her having her memories basically destroyed by Gluttony at the beginning of Season 2. Felix obviously has a lot of connection as well with Subaru because of Crush, but also their interaction within Season 1, and their mutual connection with Julius and also Reinhardt. So we know that the characters within this room definitely don't have, let's say, an unfavorable opinion of Subaru. They know how rash he is, they know what he can do, and they also know how far he will go to be able to get something done. This is also a man that has taken down one of the Sin Archbishops, Sloth, as we know, and so he does have a reputation. And even though a lot of people, everybody in this room knows that Subaru is pathetic. He's a weakling. He's not strong. I mean, even Wilhelm himself, he said that Subaru is pathetic. He is weak, but it's what inspires him and what he likes about Subaru. So despite those actions of what obviously would look like a negative for Subaru, it turns out to be a positive to those around him that inspires people. And we saw this with the whole battle with the White Well, and how, Subaru and Rim, when they charged forth against the White Well, all the other soldiers that were trained him and fighting for years, decades even, they were petrified in fear, while you had this weak, pathetic boy rushing the charge, chasing down one of the three great beasts and all that. So it was very clear that he's made a reputation for himself. He inspires others. And the thing is that Subaru does have potential here to get things done. People are going to be able to listen to his opinions because he's not in an unfavorable situation here, at least on his side of things. People will listen to his words because they do hold a lot of weight because he has proven himself time and time again. Now, the point, though, is where is his loop? We can only assume from everything that's happened is that his loop, it's either at the same spot we saw in the previous episodes, or it has a new checkpoint. We don't know exactly if he has a new checkpoint or not, but if he does, that's a whole heap of problems, because wherever the checkpoint is, that means that the casualties that have already happened within the story, theoretically, cannot be undone. For instance, all those that have potentially lost parts of their leg, to whoever else the Witches Cult has potentially killed at this point, while they have invaded the city. So, if Subaru's checkpoint is after that, those people are long gone, they're dead, which is scary, because we do know how Rosewall is. I mean, that was the whole point of Season 2, and how, if he sees Subaru going off the path of how he is, he will intervene and do things once again, like how Season 2's main conflict was. So, yeah, there's a lot to really consider here with this situation, because depending on what happens, Rosewall is going to become a problem again. And that's a whole other issue. That's a huge issue to really consider. But they're dealing with not just one, not just two, not just three, but 4 Sin Archbishops. And they only know of 3. That is something I do want to point out, that this episode wants to make sure everybody knows, at least the current cast of characters, they're only aware of 3 Sin Archbishops, aka Lust, Greed, and Wrath. They're not aware of Gluttony. That's at the very least what the episode provides. And we know Gluttony's there because we saw Otto confront him in the episode, which this is a perfect segue for that. So, Gluttony is here. He introduces himself. He seems very bonkers, unhinged. He represents, the gluttony, the sin of gluttony. And, we know what he's capable of. He has caused a lot of damage to a lot of people. He has taken Rim's name and basically very soul. That's why she is, in a coma, perma-coma. Crush has lost her memories as well. Gluttony is a very scary entity. Someone that just, with him uttering your name or putting his hand on you, it's over. You're dead. And it's one of the most terrifying abilities, honestly, from any of these sins, or these Sin Archbishops, is because Gluttony is capable of just so much damage, because if he removes your name, or eats your name, or whatever, everybody forgets you. They don't even remember you anymore, and that's huge, because you can't plan for counter fights against him if a piece has been removed off the board. Theoretically, if, for instance, Gluttony got his hands on Reinhardt, I don't know if it would even be possible, but if he got his hands on Reinhardt would cease to exist, and people would forget about him, that's a scary thought. That's legitimately horrifying to think about. So, yeah, everything in consideration, I really, really do like what this arc is setting up. I mean, it's setting the stage for the main conflict, all the main villains. You get the development of some side characters like Mimi, and then even Garfield. Subaru, having to take charge and realize he needs to deal with this very quickly or people are going to die. And then also the confrontation between Wrath and Greed. And also whatever is going on with Otto. So yeah, let's talk about that. Otto's situation is obviously a mystery right now. We don't know what's going on with him. We have no idea. There's been no confirmation within the story as well of anyone mentioning Otto. Obviously, Subaru would remember him. We know this. He's kind of unaffected by Gluttony's authority, but everyone else would be. So nobody mentioning Otto, and the more time that passes that they don't mention him, the scarier it gets, that he potentially could become like Rim. And his character, it was very integral to Subaru's growth in Season 2. He's the one that really punched Subaru out of, the slump he was in. He basically got down in the dirt and started beating the crap out of Subaru like a best friend, like, hey man, get your act together, let's do this together, stop trying to do this all on your own. He's the one that kind of pushed Subaru down the proper path at the end of season 2. So if he's gone, that's another individual that really has always had Subaru's back gone now. So that is a concern. And since Subaru's checkpoint is up in the air wherever he's going to respawn when he dies, Otto could be permanently gone. So food for thought there. Now, with that being said, I do want to talk about wrath and greed, because there was quite a confrontation between the two within this episode, and also we get to see showcasings of how Raph was not able to really hurt Regulus or even do damage to him, somehow. We don't really know what kind of ability he's using, but Subaru was able to wrap his whip around Regulus's neck. Now, we don't know if this is because Regulus didn't even want to guard, he didn't even care to, because he views Subaru as such an insignificant threat, it wouldn't even hurt him to begin with. Whatever the case may be, we can definitely say that Regulus is incredibly powerful, but, he's definitely way beyond whatever Raph is capable of. Raph literally couldn't do anything to Regulus within this episode. She full-blown used her magic, she was getting very upset and everything, and it literally did nothing to him whatsoever. We in fact see the devastation of what she caused. Like, the very ground underneath Regulus was charred and burnt and all that, and it's crazy. Like, it's legitimately crazy just the damage she's capable of. But if you look at the spot he's on, there is no visible damage to where he was standing. There's no visible damage to Emilia. So he's capable of, whatever it may be, blocking or guarding against attacks of such magnitude that would fry anyone. Even Reinhardt himself said Sirius is incredibly powerful. And remember, Sirius was basically nerfed when she was fighting him. So whatever's going on here, his authority or whatever a magic ability he's using is scary. Now, anyways, getting into the topic of wrath and greed, fighting each other, it goes to show that they can work together, but at the same time, if they don't have their goals aligned from the gospel, they potentially will kill each other. That is at very least what this episode showcases, that there could be dissent between the members of the Witches Cult, and that even the Sin Archbishops, because of how unhinged they are and their objectives, their morals, they might come at odds with each other. I mean, we already seen that Regulus is a little bit hard to work with. I mean, look at what happened in Season 2 with Emilia's flashback with Pandora. She sent him away. Very powerful ability, by the way. I'm not going to get into that whole conversation. I mean, Pandora is, her abilities alone, just really diving into it and discussing it is insane. But the point is that Regulus is very hard to work with. It's very clear, and he's very strong, and we saw a little bit of his fighting capabilities in Season 2. So, seeing Raph not being able to do anything as well showcases that he's a very strong Sin Archbishop, and he's going to be a huge issue, like a legitimately huge issue to deal with, because whatever's going on, getting Emilia out of his hands is going to be probably the biggest obstacle for Subaru to be able to accomplish, which is why I believe the opening song emphasizes this so much, at least towards the end of the opening. Which, by the way, the opening played again for this episode, which is, it's very shocking. I guess it's because rezero already has like 4 cores set up. It already knows what it wants to do and its episode count already established. So it's willing to play the opening song. I think that's fine. But also it fits with the tradition of like a battle shonen. And so having an opening song for an arc that's supposed to feel very battle orientated is not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, overall, amazing episode of ReZero. I might talk more in depth in a separate video with certain topics, but for now, I'll leave it at that. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this week's episode of ReZero. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. Chibi out.